Hey guys, I've just wanted to get this out there that this video's quality won't probably be the greatest. Just a little disclaimer, because I just saw this in the video, right? And I saw this comment about this blob up in the tree, and I just had to make a video on it because it bothered me so much. And I would really appreciate it if you guys could just, in the comment section, just be nice, be respectful, just give some good honest input, good honest opinion. Let's have some good conversation down there in the comments. I'd also ask, just leave comments if you have anything to say at all. If you're an especially you experienced outdoorsman, please say something. Let's talk about this. Let's get this stirred up. I want to figure this out. Also, I'd like to add, ever since we heard the creepy sounds out in the woods out there, so much more creepy activity has happened. We've heard whistles. My dad and I actually got growled / snorted at by some large, it was not a deer, because we know deer snort and we know what they sound like, but we've had that happen. I had a rock thrown the other night, like a boulder, and we heard a weird, like, gibberish voice. Okay, so there's been a lot that's happened out there, and we're all going to be sharing it on this channel probably at some point, maybe, hopefully. But I'd like to say that also we're not these weird people, like, we're not people that believe in aliens or ghosts or anything like that. I think, whatever is going on has a logical explanation. I think it's some kind of animal or whatever, but I just have to get this video out there. And yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I hope you guys enjoy it and get something out of it, and leave a good, honest, just, leave something down in the comments. Let's get some conversation going. Let's start talking about this, and let's figure this out, because this is honestly starting to bother me. This is a place that we like to go hiking and hunting, and a place we've always enjoyed, and creepy stuff has been happening out there. It's not, it's actually kind of like disturbing sometimes, but just enjoy the video, guys. Hey guys, so this video is going to be basically just kind of like elaborating and going more into depth with what happened that day when we heard those sounds, and also something I noticed in the video after reading some comments too, which I really want to touch on and I'm really excited to share. But I'm going to explain the day, Thanksgiving morning, that my dad and I heard the sounds in this set of woods right here. And I'm not going to say where it is for, just protection or whatever. But basically, it was Thanksgiving morning, and it was about 4 years ago. I was about 14 years old, 15 years old. I'm 18 now. I'm going on 19. So I was probably about 15. And it was my dad, my uncle, and I. My uncle was hunting somewhere all the way down there, and my dad and I walked this trail, and my dad he basically went up in here, because how this trail works is it goes like this. It goes in, like kind of in the woods here, it goes up a little bit, turns, and then it's kind of like a swoop, and then there's like in here somewhere, there's like a 4-way intersection, right? And there's like a sign, and it tells you where to go. My dad went around, and then he went up, and there's like a really tall hill right here, and then it overlooks this valley area, and my dad kind of went on the side of that hill and overlooked this valley area, right? I was walking with my dad that morning, and we split up because we already had our spots already like cleared out and ready, like a week and a half before hunting week even happened. And I split up. I said, all right, good luck. I walked on this little trail right here, this little tiny skinny trail, and I walked over to this tree, and that's like my spot to go in. Like, this is the tree, the pine tree, because there's always these 2 pine trees, and they always indicate kind of like where to go in. So I go by the big one, and I walk in the woods, and something like just understanding what I'm about to explain to you can kind of help with the understanding why we heard the sounds where we did, right? So this area is really like right, like the triangle I'm kind of making right now, or the not the triangle, the rectangle I'm making with my mouse. That is really thick brush right there, and it's also really thick kind of like up in this area, and then right next to this trail it's really thick too. But in here there's an opening, right? And what a lot of deer do is they got all this thick brush around them, and then they'll just sit in here in this nice clearing area. And it's not a very big clearing area, but they'll sit in there and they can see out in the field. They can see what's going on in the trail. They can kind of just see what's going on in the area, and they just like it, you know. But I walked in that one morning, and I know it's kind of grainy because it's Google Maps, but I walked in here, and there's actually a deer trail right here, right? And there's a really thick like brush and shrubs and all that stuff that's kind of like grown in. So it's like this almost like tunnel. It's so thick in there, man. It's crazy. But I was walking in that morning, right? Right in here. And what really freaked me out is, I don't know how well I elaborated this on my description in, you know, the video, but it was really quiet. There was no animal sounds, and I've never had a problem with the woods, because the only thing down here, this is like the south of Wisconsin, by the way, right? There's no bears down here. I mean, there's some spotted ones, like occasionally, but that's really rare, right? So I'm not scared of the woods. And even if there was black bears down here, they're really not that big of a danger. They don't really like humans unless there's cubs, right? So I'm not really scared of them. But I walked here, and I went in that day, and it was so quiet. It was so freakishly quiet. It felt like I was in a soundproof room. It was so quiet in there, and I felt like it wasn't just like I was just some scared kid, because that's not me. I just grown up in the woods. That's just how I am, right? I even had a gun with me and a flashlight. I was fine. I walked in here, and I felt like there was a big predator around, because there was no animals making any sound, nothing. And there was no wind either. So I felt super vulnerable because I was making all this noise, and I knew for a fact something was watching me. I just knew something was watching me. Like, I could just tell. Like, I just had that feeling something was watching me. And I got kind of just a little bit unsettled, and I was about right here, right? And so I just kept walking, and I just sat down at my spot up here, overlooking this kind of triangle area from this point, right? So I was just looking over this here area, and, you know, it got light out, and a little after it got light, we heard those sounds. And they started around, for me, because my dad, like I said, he was up on the side of the hill. He recorded them from here, and I was right here. And I think the sounds came from right about here. And at this time, I legitimately just, I don't remember if I had a phone with me or what, but I don't think I had a phone, because I was 15, or I might have, but I don't think I had a phone. I didn't record them. I did not record the sounds. My dad did. He was up here. I was freaking out because it was somewhere in here. I would say, so I'm like right here. It was somewhere in here. And there's like a hill right here. So it was on the other side, or just in this thick brush. And I could hear something moving, like moving up here a little bit. And then I couldn't hear it anymore moving, but I heard it, and it was screaming and howling. And it was honestly kind of, it still disturbs me to this day. It's just something that like sticks with you. It was really weird, really freaky. And at this point, I already was like, you know, suspecting there to be a predator around, and that just really kind of like rattled me. And my dad heard it, and he's been in the woods his whole life, and he's like, no, this is weird. And he just started recording, and that's, you know, that led up into the recording where he said, I never heard anything like this in my life, you know. And so it stopped eventually, because what happened was I was about right here. It started screaming, and it kind of just went up in here somewhere. It just disappeared in there. Screamed about 5-6 times, and it just stopped. And my dad came over to me, and I was looking everywhere, man. I was freaking out. I was like, this thing is after me. It's after me, man. I'm screwed. Like, I was actually freaking out. looking around. I had my gun off my safety. I was standing up and just kind of looking around everywhere with my gun at the ready position. And nothing ever happened. Nothing ever. But I saw a blaze orange, and then I flipped my gun back on safe, and I went over to my dad. My dad was coming towards me because he was about over here. I was right here, so we kind of just, we knew where we were in relation to each other. That's a big thing with hunters. We always got to know where each other are, because we got to know where, like, a safe place is to shoot, you know, because I don't want to be shooting anywhere over here if my dad's over there, because it's just good to know. So we linked up, and we were just talking about it, like, what was that sound, you know. But we even tried deer hunting a little bit more, but, like, no, we're done. We tried to, like, do a little deer drive and around the brush, but we're like, we're done. And so we walked back, we linked up with my uncle, told him about it, shared the video with him. He did not hear the sound, which was pretty crazy, because I think it was yelling this way, because it was angry at me that I walked into its area, and I think it was hollowing it, like, and screaming at me, you know, directly. So it makes sense if the sound's going this way, you know, towards me, and my uncle's all the way down there. He was all the way down there. He didn't hear it, but it was very loud and disturbing. So we're actually going to cut over to the video portion, the actual footage, and we're going to look at that because there's something pretty interesting. So I have the original footage right here, and we'll play the sounds really quick before we do anything, just to start it off, and then I'll kind of explain what's going on here. So here's the sounds.
Did you hear that?
So I want to make this clear. This was my dad had a Samsung Galaxy 6, I think. This was a while ago, right? It does not have the best microphone. It does not pick up the best sound. In person, it sounded so, you could hear every little detail, especially with how much closer I was than my dad. But still, we picked it up. He picked it up pretty good, thankfully. I just wish I had a phone on me that day. Oh my gosh, it would have been insane. It would have actually been crazy. But basically, a big thing people have been pointing out is this thing, this big blob thing. And I want to talk about it. And I'm not going to act like I'm a professional and I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I don't, okay? If Thinker Thunker... the man, the myth, the legend, if you want to analyze this, please analyze it. Like, I'm just going to reach out to you right now. Like, if you're watching this, please analyze this if you can, if you want to, if it's worth your time. I know you're a busy guy. I know you got a lot going on, you know. But, like, it would mean a lot if you could and just look at it. I'm not saying this is anything. I know the sound was something, but I'm talking about this. I'm not saying this is anything, all right? I'm not one of those guys where it's like, it's a Bigfoot, all right? It's a Bigfoot, and that's that. I don't know what this is. I just want to know what it is, okay? I'm going to include some footage right now, because we saw this, right? And we saw this too. I don't know what that is. And we went back to this area right where my dad was, because I saw this and I was so intrigued. Like, is that a squirrel nest? What is that? It's such a large, dark object. And I'm like, is it one of those cancer, you know, like those big bulging like quote unquote, like cancerous growths you see on trees? I thought it was one of those. Like, okay, maybe it's one of those. But it looks so weird and out of shape. And also, squirrel nests, the thing about squirrel nests is it would not show up this dark, because this is darker than the tree is. You see that? Because squirrel nests are made out of leaves, and leaves are kind of like a light gray color, so they would actually be like the same color of the tree, if not lighter. If you look at the leaves on the trees up here, they're lighter than the tree is. So it doesn't make any sense for this to just be a squirrel nest that's really dark for some reason. Also, it's gigantic, and if you look at this tree, it's a pretty big tree, and it goes up and it kind of forks both ways, right? And there's just these straight pieces of wood. So it doesn't make any sense for a squirrel to build a nest on kind of like if you look at this tree, there's no supports for the nest to be built on. It's just like this, there's like a blob there, right? If I was a squirrel, I'd build it like in the fork where I have both, you know, sides of the tree holding it up, or somewhere up here like an actual squirrel does, you know. Squirrel nests they don't just like spider web it on to a tree. They have to have structure and support, so they put it usually up in the canopy, up in the branches. So I'm really sorry for all the chattering, by the way. You know, I just got to talk about this. So we're going to slow this down, and I want you guys to look at this. All right, just look at it, watch it, look at this thing move or whatever it is, right? And just tell me what you think in the comment section, and be respectful. I'm not this crazy person, right? I know a lot of people think that, like, people that post stuff like this or witness stuff like this are crazy. I'm not. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in aliens. I'm literally just some random dude that lives in Wisconsin that had this happen, okay? This is weird, and I want to know what you guys think. All you experienced outdoorsmen, your opinions, right? Don't act like, you know the answer to it if you don't. Just give your honest opinion, try to help out, put your input in, your thoughts, and let's talk about it, okay? So I'm going to slow this down with my super, super high quality crime software here. And I'm just going to turn it down because it sounds really annoying. All right, it's going. Kind of skip over to when my dad moves. Okay, so I want to make a note before we go any further. If you look at this thing, which we'll zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see that there's this weird like shape hanging off of the tree that just kind of looks odd, right? And if you look at the fork, right, there's a space in between. So whatever this lump is holding onto the left branch, not the right branch. There's space here. You can see the space, right? There's no way it could be obstructing that. You keep this shape in mind, right? It's already moving, right? It's moving a little bit, which is really weird. This tree is far away, by the way. We went back to the spot, and I'll try to include footage. We tried to find the tree, and if we saw a knot and we saw some big, squirrel nest or whatever, we would have seen it, okay? We just would have seen it. It just would have been there. There was nothing around. I promise. I'll show the footage. Also, I want to say that these trees were actually pretty big trees. It's just really hard to go off of footage and show you. But it moves. And I think, okay, here's what I think, okay? If this was, let's just say it was a Bigfoot, right? And we're going to go back to let's just say, for the sake of this video, that this could possibly be a Bigfoot. Let's just treat it like that. I'm not saying it is, but let's just treat it like it could be one, okay? We're going to go back to the map. So here's what makes sense to me. I'm here. This thing's here. My dad's here. There's another one here, at least. And this thing's screaming at me, but notice it's going this way. And I can pinpoint. It's like looping back over by this one, right? It's like looping around, going towards here, to this. That's the direction it was heading. So it almost, to me, feels like they were trying to link up. If it was a Bigfoot, I have no idea. I'm just saying, like, I'm just pointing something out, all right? Just want to make that clear. So watch this thing move. And already you can see that thing hanging off of the tree from earlier is gone. Like, it was a leg hanging a little bit, and it moved, or it was his knee. And you can see what looks like an arm reaching over to the other half of the tree. See that? Looks like an arm. And that thing is gone now, and it's completely changed shape. My dad moves around and stuff. He's just readjusting, and then he puts the camera back to where it was. Okay. Question. How did this object go from hanging off the tree, not touching the other limb, to completely changing the shape of it, completely grabbing the other side, and just hanging around up there now? Can somebody explain that to me? Because it just looks so weird. Like, if this was, let's just say this was a squirrel nest or a lump, or let's just say it was a leaf or something, or I don't know. How does it completely change the shape? The whole shape just completely changes, and it's just completely a different shape now. Like, look at that. It's just a lump. And how does changing... I just want somebody to explain this to me. How does moving the camera around completely make this thing change what shape it is, even though it's super far away? I don't get it. Like, can somebody actually explain to me what's going on here? What is this thing? Is it like look at this. Like, let's just play it back. Let's just play it back. So look at that. Just watch it. Like, I'm sorry? Like, what is it? The only thing I could think of is it was watching my dad. Let's just say, okay, because I don't know, but I'm just trying to reason in my head. Like, let's just say this was a Bigfoot. It would make sense for it to readjust and to move and get extra support, and like so it can rest a little better. If it saw my dad moving around and fidgeting around with something in his hands, if it saw that, it could be like, okay, he's not paying attention, he's moving, I can move, you know, I can readjust and I can just hold really still and he won't see me. If it was a Bigfoot, if it was something, I'm not saying it is, okay, I just want to make that clear. And then it's just sitting up there. And like, there was another thing too, where at first I thought it was just like there was a branch hanging with a leaf on it, and it was just a leaf. But like, it's not, because there's this branch, which is on this tree, which is far back, is covering it. You can see the branch covers it. And then this tree also covers this one too. So whatever this is far back there. It's far back. It's... And I'm going to include some footage right now, okay? And I apologize that this video is not put together very well. It's just... I just had to make it. So I'm going to show you the footage now.
Can't find exactly where he was sitting because it's like, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago or something, but he said, I mean, he was somewhere down right in here, and the sound came from right over there, and I was sitting over there, and it was like, so I was sitting right there, kind of in the middle of the screen, and then the sound came from him, from his point of view, it was to the right, and to me, it was like directly 90 degrees because it was right next to me. And it worked its way back there, but he doesn't know if he was sitting over there. And we're just trying to look and see if there's a black blob up in the tree. Like, you know, like those big knots. Oh, what's this? These trees look familiar to the video because there's a, it might have been right in here somewhere then. We had a big windstorm come through and knock over all these trees. But that looks, I mean, if the tree was a straight tree with no bends on it, then that might be it. But because that we do have these, there's like these big deformities on these trees sometimes. But there's like, that's the only one. I mean, there's like a little tiny one over there, but it's tiny. It's not what we saw in the video. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it anywhere. I mean, maybe that oak tree looks familiar. I just can't tell. It all looks weird.